December 22nd, 2016. I'm on the Galaxy Rotation Curve page, and a lot of people know about this, but I want to throw in my 2 cents here because I think dark matter is pseudoscience. The galaxies, when Vera Rubin discovered what was happening to these things, is that they had a central mass, and you had the spiral arms around it, and the spiral arms are moving around the central mass at the same velocity that the central mass is spinning. So basically, it would be like Mercury orbiting the sun at the same velocity as Neptune, or yeah, with the same rotation as Neptune, way the hell out in the outer reaches of the solar system. And they were like, what the hell? Why is it doing that? Why is the interior spinning about the same velocity as the outer edges? And they couldn't explain that. They still can't explain it. So instead of saying, well, we're assuming things that we didn't expect to be true, instead of like attacking the assumptions first, they just plowed along through it. And since this happened in the 70s, instead of saying, well, maybe we don't understand all that much about galaxies and the universe as a whole, instead of doing that in the 70s, they were building particle colliders, bigger and bigger particle colliders. They're still doing that. And Bill Gates went over this. It's the idea, it's their mindset, it's the vogue thing to do, to invent particles and then to look for the funds to find those particles. And, you know, if you have something to say against it, if you say, well, this is ridiculous, you get talked down, and the mathematicians, they look down upon you. They say, well, look at these math equations, you can't understand this. Look, there's holes here and here. There must be particles hiding all over these math equations. And it was a perfect scam, if you will, and it's still going on to this day, where they invent particles like the pseudoscientific Higgs boson and other weird bullshit. But it was the vogue thing to do, and how easy was it just to say, well, the reason why the outer bands are rotating at the same velocity as the inner bands is that there's dark matter pulling the outer bands as fast as the inner bands. It's holding it together like a giant bowl of jello, you know? But it's absolutely ridiculous, because there's no discovery of dark matter. It was never discovered. There's no dark matter out there. It was an invented construct. They invented it, just like all the other weird bullshit they invented, like dark energy and black holes and other bullshit. But at best, it's pseudoscience. And I'm looking at this Galaxy Rotation Curve page, and there's no, when you scroll down to alternatives, you'll see it on Wikipedia, you'll see it. Alternatives to dark matter. They push this weird modified Newtonian dynamics bullshit. Like, what the hell is this? Why can't you attack the assumptions first? And the assumptions are that star systems cannot exchange orbits. It's once you have the sun in the center, you have Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. It stays like that forever, and that's how it formed. But clearly what's happening is, when they looked at these galaxies rotating, the stars were exchanging orbits with each other to give the appearance that it rotates like a giant, you know, spinning disk. But that isn't how it rotates at all. What's happening is all those billions of objects are exchanging orbits with each other, and they're falling inwards. And the way it rotates is a lot different than what they expected to. They expected to be like, just like the solar system with the Newtonian dynamics, but they were using an assumption that works on a small scale, and they were applying it to something as vast as a galaxy, which is 100,000 light years in diameter. And then they were like, why isn't this working? And no, invent dark matter. And they weren't really coming to grips with what was really going on here, is that the worldview of galaxies, the worldview was changing right before their eyes. But instead of changing with it, they started inventing stuff to plug holes, and they didn't really get to the bottom of the problem. Their motto is to modify theories, not to replace them, because it's much cheaper to modify. For instance, I learned this myself. If you have a textbook and you have all these publishers that want their say in it, and you have all these other professors that like the way they're doing things, it's a lot easier just to take a theory and just to tack on something on it, or you know, change a little bit right here, or you know, to not really outright replace the idea, because what happens is you have to rewrite everything. You have to take out huge portions of stuff where people have vested interests, that they like their name in these books, or they like the way people look at them over here, and if their egos and if their prestige is threatened with this new idea that completely replaces them, they don't want anything like that to happen. It's easier just to make a little modification here, and that's what modified Newtonian dynamics, that screams out to me, is that they just want to just modify a little bit right here. They don't want to go to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is that they were scaling a orbital configuration with Newtonian dynamics to something that's completely beyond comprehension in size, saying that galaxies rotate like solar systems, and that's where they fucked up. But yeah, just keep that in mind, and look at these things in the light of history. Don't look at them as 2016, this is what we know, this is what we don't know. Try to see where these ideas came to be in time as well. 1960s, 1970s, 1980s. And look at what they were all believing back then, because guess what? Those people who were getting their PhDs in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they're the ones that head these universities now, that have vested interest to make sure that if they had any say in it, that their name is solidified in time, and that they have the prestige and they have the, you know, the wherewithal to have been somebody important in the past, or you know, and that kind of that attitude isn't in the best interest of science, because it's supposed to be self-correcting. But as you'll learn, science is self-correcting. The problem is that the scientists on the individual level are not self-correcting, and they're the ones that hold these positions of power now as the editors of journals, and of professor emerituses and other, you know, rank and file and structure stuff in universities. And you'll see that because the ideas that we have, they fix all this, are here right now, but they're not gonna get any airtime because of, you know, the past, of how things were managed in the past and whatnot. But I'm still rambling. All right, well, hopefully people can make sense of that and just really look at it for what it really is. It was a failure to understand something, so they invented something to make up for their failure to understand it. That's all dark matter is. It's an invention that doesn't have any physicality. All right, y'all, later.